In just 2 miserable and scary years, Daniel Ricciardo went from potential world champion, top driver, highest paid person without championship and hottest bid on the transfer market to a total liability for McLaren, to a man with no current contract and with a terrifying time gap between himself and a teammate. But how is it possible? For sure, you cannot forget how to drive overnight, but your car can be changed over another round of negotiations. Let's investigate why Ricciardo failed to become fast in McLaren and what his driving style has to do with it. It's Trackdown channel, let's go!
Break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. Taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't so let me break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. Taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't here to make
A lot of people suppose that Daniel is a late breaker. Someone even calls him the last of late breakers, but it is truth only for overtaking. In terms of hot lapping, I tend to call him sort of a medium breaker. Originally, he doesn't brake too late, he doesn't brake too early, he sits in the sweet middle spot. And the main thing about braking that he appreciates is a stable braking. The second key feature that determines Daniel's driving style is late and aggressive entrance into the corner. He usually waits to the very last beat and then turns the car really aggressive. He demands from it to just do what he wants. And the main result of these two patterns is a good mid-corner and late corner rotation. Ricciardo likes to rotate the car really lately, at the apex or even after the apex. So those are the 3 key features of Daniel's driving style. For example, let's compare himself with Max Verstappen. The infamous Mexican GP qualifying 2018, really close call between teammates, and it was the last chance for Max Verstappen to become the youngest pole sitter. As you all know, Daniel just killed this chance. Yes! So let's see. This particular corner is very representative. Right here, in this corner, Max Verstappen brakes a bit later than Daniel, which already destroys any reputation of a late braker, because Max Verstappen is a well-known early braker, but managed to brake later in here. But they proceed. Now it is the corner entrance, and we see that Max starts to turn the wheel earlier. Daniel's wheel is still pointed forward. Max is already turning in. So Max enters the corner earlier. But a bit further we see that Daniel is way more aggressive with his steering, just as I told you previously. Late and aggressive entrances. Now in the apex again, Daniel is a bit further down, is a bit ahead of Max. His steering wheel is turned in more and his style allows him to maintain a higher minimum speed in the corner. So in the middle of the corner, Daniel is faster than Max. But at the end of the corner, we see that Max nearly closed back the entire gap. The difference between them is quite small. So if I'll try to oversimplify Daniel Ricciardo's driving style, I will say that he trail brakes everywhere. Now we enter the best site in the internet, f1tempo.com, and let's compare the 2018 Baku qualifying between Max Verstappen in white and Ricciardo in blue. The exact same trend. For example, first corner. Daniel brakes later, wins on the entrance, loses in the exit. The speed in the corner is higher. The second corner, exact same situation. Winning in the entrance, losing in the exit. The third corner, again winning in the entrance and then losing a bit in the exit. The fourth corner, again the same sort of wave of delta, and we clearly see this pattern on the whole circuit and a pretty close result at the end. So this is pretty much everything you really need to know about Daniel Ricciardo's driving style. It is worth mentioning that Red Bull car from 2014 to 2018 really suited Daniel's style, or formed Daniel's style, as you like. As I already told you in my Charles Leclerc driving style breakdown, Usually, driving style of drivers is hugely connected with their first or second F1 car. In those years, Red Bull used to be really stable on braking. And Daniel likes stable braking. So, first box checked. Then, it had oversteery balance. The incline of the car was really aggressive. The back end, the back axle was lifted quite high in comparison with competitors, especially with Mercedes, and they had tons of downforce from the front wing. So it suited Daniel's style perfectly. His aggressive entrances demanded from the front end, and front end delivered. Plus, oversteer balance allowed him to rotate the car quite easily in the middle of the corner. Also, the picture will not be complete without saying that Ricciardo is well known for his overtaking, and this thing is also directly connected with his driving style. Yes, he likes stable braking, but he can easily push his braking point as late as he wants basically, which is quite good for overtaking. Then his favorite trick is driving straight into the apex and then rotating the car at the apex, after the apex, basically parking the car on the ideal trajectory. But as you remember, Daniel already, even on his hot laps, rotates the car quite lately, so it is not a problem for him. He needs less adjustments than other drivers. But as you all know, Daniel Ricciardo left Red Bull after 2018, and the latter phase of 2018 was not so successful for him. The main reason is that Red Bull car in its development started to lose stability on brakings. Max Verstappen likes the front end to be more loose on the braking, to play with it a bit more, and this feature didn't fit in Daniel's driving style, so we see a decline in results after Monaco GP 2018. Then, transferring to Renault, and not many of you remember, but Daniel had some problems. During first several GPs in 2019, he struggled to adjust Renault to his driving style, but he succeeded in it, and after he made it work like he likes, Daniel delivered some stellar performances, so he was able to adapt. But in 2021, Daniel moves to Mclaren. And turns out that Mclaren is an anti-Ricciardo car. First of all, it is understeery everywhere, in the entrance and in the exits of the corner, which counters his driving style. The second thing, understeery cars really hate aggressive inputs. Guess what Daniel thinks about aggressive inputs? Then, understeery cars struggle to rotate quickly, so the rotation needs to be smoother, but Daniel likes the rotation to be short and fast, and that's where everything started to fall apart. But to get a better understanding, let me draw you some picture. I will compare Daniel's driving style and Lando Norris's driving style, or at least how Lando was driving the 2021 McLaren car. So, first of all, I will draw regular Ricciardo style in blue, and then I will draw Lando's style in orange. So, Daniel enters the corner, starts braking, waits to the last bit, late turning point, aggressive input. The car really rotates mid-corner, somewhere around here, and now the exit. Now Lando Norris drives in, brakes, then the main thing, he starts turning in earlier, but the steering is way smoother. He do it smoothly, but the main work with rotation is already done to the apex. So the whole trajectory is smoother, and especially considering the fact that the car is understeery, the trajectory is more straightened in the exit of the corner, which leads to huge gains. In terms of braking, Lando Norris, like Max Verstappen, is an early braker, so originally Daniel already brakes a bit later. Now, of course, Daniel didn't sit still, he tried to solve the problem, but the main thing is that he chose a wrong direction to solve this problem. And I want you to understand this really clearly. As a racing driver, you see a goal to become even faster. To be faster, you need to push more. Pushing more needs braking a bit later, maybe turning a bit aggressively. So it's quite intuitive to start braking later, to start demanding from the car even more. But here is the main trap, and Ricciardo got caught in this trap. To become faster, he needed to calm himself down. He needed to start braking earlier, braking smoother, turning the car in smoother. And it is the hardest thing to do. In some way, you may say that he needed to relearn how to drive a car. So Daniel started pushing his braking point even further. But this didn't solve any of his problems. He is braking later, that means he has to brake aggressively. That means that he loads his front axle even more. The car is already understeer, he loads the front even more. It understeers even more on the entrance. So what Ricciardo needed to do is to hold his braking point to a bit later stages. You start brake earlier, you do not load the front axle so much. You start steering earlier, you do it smoother. The whole balance moves around smoother. The understeer car doesn't understeer so much, maybe even at all. It rotates smoothly and the trajectory is straightened towards the exit. Now, for even better understanding, let's compare the onboard shots from this exact corner. Here is Lando, here is Dan. They approach the braking. You clearly see that Lando Norris is already braking, Daniel will start braking later, here, just as I told you. Then, you see that Lando already starts turning the wheel in. Ricciardo is still on a straight wheel, while being already somewhere at here, still on a straight wheel. Now we go further. Ricciardo's steering wheel work is more aggressive, but they are already in the same point, unlike the situation with Max Verstappen, because car understeered on the exit and Daniel has already lost all his gains from later braking. Moreover, you see that Lando's car is already rotated better, rotated more. Then you see again, Ricciardo has to do some correction to catch the grip on the front axle, and they go to the exit. But it's fair to say that Daniel started to adapt to the later stages of 2021. He got a win in Monza, and him and Norris looked on pair during last maybe 6 or 7 races. But then 2022 arrived. 2022 arrived and completely destroyed Daniel's career. Just put it a nail in the coffin. As I already told you several times, 2022 cars became understeery as a whole rule set, as a class, due to the rule changes. Then, new brakes. Each and every driver struggled with the brakes, and Ricciardo was one of those who struggled the most. And you remember that Daniel likes stable braking. And the last thing, ground effect. In terms of pure downforce, 2021 and 2022 cars were on par. But in 2022, more downforce was generated in the middle of the car due to the ground effect, due to the venturi tunnels. That means that it was a less downforce from the front wing. And you remember that Ricciardo likes as much downforce on the front wing as possible. So, in some way, in some case, I may say that Ricciardo didn't stood a chance in this reglement, and maybe he even didn't stood a chance in any other team. So, in conclusion, Daniel Ricciardo is a really fast, accomplished driver with great skills, with great overtaking skills, with strong mentality for races, but his driving style still contains some flaws. There is a whole cluster of cars which do not suit Daniel's driving style and which could never suit it. So I guess I may say that Ricciardo failed to adapt to new cars. Also, frequent team changes played a role. When you change team, not only your car changes, but the whole environment around you changes. So it may play a huge factor. But I must say that comeback is still possible and can even be successful. Because even in current season, cars are not as understeery, which is the main thing. Also, teams and drivers seems to find how to deal with the new brakes. So maybe with some setup tweaks, Daniel could tune the car just how he likes it. And if he tunes the car how he likes it, he looks quite scary for opponents. So, this is it, guys. I hope that you liked this Daniel Ricciardo's driving style breakdown. I hope that I have answered the main questions stated in the beginning of the video and in the thumbnail. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, check that your phone has YouTube notifications on. Also type a comment if you want to discuss something, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Stay tuned for more in-depth F1 analysis. Set and go.
Off the speakers can't even handle me. Giving what I got, nobody's gonna drain my energy, and I will never stop. I'm motivated by enemies, setting up shop so everybody remember me. And no, I am not going through life regretfully. I'd rather work non-stop, what they call incessantly, than work some odd job just to live life pleasantly. Already got lost in my mind, not a fantasy. I'm getting ill, gotten soul, so stop, drop, and roll. You lost all control and pop off your ball. I got squat, I fall. I'm not bought, I'm sold. My stock rocks, it's gold. Hey, knock, knock, she home. It's shit, talk to close. I ain't stopping though. It's hip hop, you know, or is it rock and roll? I'm not dropping tone, no, my pocket's grown. You can't stop the show, so get rockin' up. So let me break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. Taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't never. So let me break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. I'm taking that crown from you. I ain't worried about you, I ain't here to make friends. Yeah, I ain't never slowing down, keep on going till I'm down. No, I'm never slowing down, cause we're blowing up now.